And away we go with our very first paper this Wednesday morning here. And it's got to do with first news, as you can see there on the screen. A lot of stories, but that picture indeed tells a lot. Hands on the face and the face not looking happy. It says budget of transition, Governor Masari whips. And that's him there on the front cover there. Yes, he's truly whipping. Well, suddenly overwhelmed with emotions, burst into tears as he presents last appropriation bill as governor to Katsina Assembly. Says 288.63 billion naira budget designed to consolidate on his administration's achievements in the past 7 years. My budget of transition aimed at completing ongoing projects, initiate complete others before my tenure ends, Masari clarifies, and he cries. Such a sad one there. Such a sad one after 7 years. It's okay. All right, let's move on to another story now. CBN raises interest rates to 16.5% to check inflation. How? Many experts are talking. Well, you find that story inside of the first news and you can talk about it. By the way, hopefully we can touch on this particular one when we do have our guests joining us later on in the course of the show. Ronaldo's contract with Manchester United terminated by mutual agreement. That was a story that was trending all through yesterday evening till midnight up until this morning in sports. How Atiku embarrassed Jonathan. Jonathan refused to support his re-election in 2015, according to Wike. Wike was talking tough all through yesterday. He was spilling the beans and he was not looking back. By also utilizing derivation funds prudently, Governor Diri says, everybody is a Buharist in Bauchi, says PDP's Governor Mohammed. Oshun APC Chair Famodu installed as new monarch. Why Oni of Ife invited me to his palace. Nkechi Blessing speaks. There was this picture of her and she was wearing all white. People said, Everybody was saying,
Are you part of the wives?
No, she was invited and she.
So that's why I'm saying people were asking if she's now part of the wives.
No, people were just saying, hey. I mean, if you understand what that means, what has happened in the past few weeks.
Now that's if she's going to be the new number.
They are not saying it. They are just saying.
I found out that when they say that Aregbesola means that the king has put his leg on you, and once the king puts his leg on you, you automatically become his wife. I don't know how true that is, but
that's in Nigeria.
That's in Nigeria, yeah.
It's okay. They're just saying, okay. All right, let's move on with one more story here. It's got to do with ex-agitator hails Umana Audu for fixing deplorable east-west road. And finally, 2023 Atiku Okowa pull out of presidential town hall meeting. Yes, they were supposed to be here, especially on the partnership that New Central has. Fortunately, they have pulled out of presidential town hall meeting. They say they're not doing any more.
Wow. All right, let's still stay in Nigeria. Looking at the front page of the Daily Times, the big story this morning says, tackling insurgency, Buhari's biggest achievement. That's according to Aregbesola. Says investigation concluded into Kuje prison break, explains why report can't be made public. And if you want to find out what that is or why the report can't be made public, you need to get yourself a copy of the Daily Times. On page 3, Buhari to unveil redesigned Naira today, says Emefiele. Interesting. I can't wait to see what it looks like. When every time we talk about the redesigned Naira, I'm thinking, are they going to use the same faces and just change the design? Are we going to see an introduction of fresh faces? Are we maybe going to see more women? I doubt so. Court declines to order INEC to resume continuous voters registration. On page 3, there have been clamorings. A lot of organizations, civil organizations and individuals as well have clamored for INEC to resume registration, but the court has declined to order them to. Oil theft, Senate committee fails to name thieves. Details of that's on page 2. It's interesting that we've been talking about oil theft in Nigeria for a while, and we hear these people come out to say, we know the persons who are behind this. This is an organized crime. We know the cabal, the people behind the cabal. Okay, name these people. We never get names. It's just talking in circles. That's what we're seeing. Anyway, still on the front page this morning of the Daily Times, my administration attracted over $3 billion investment to oil gas sector. And this is according to President Muhammadu Buhari, restates net zero carbon emission by 2060. Wow, that's a very interesting target, and I hope that we're able to meet it. But that's all we can take this morning on the front page of the Daily Times. Let's head over to South Africa.
All right, straight we go to South Africa, and that the front page. We're starting off with the big headline there. It's clear. It says rape accuser stands by her story. Rape accuser stands by her story. Anger in community forces parents of 15-year-old girl to move her to place of safety after boy she laid charge against committed suicide.
Oh, wow.
Page 2. So it's actually a school suicide. The story behind this, it's a bit deep. There are a lot of controversy springing up. Many people are saying that this student or this young boy committed suicide because he was falsely accused of what he never did. But the rape accuser says, listen, I'm sticking to my story. That's what happened, regardless of the fact that he may not be here to defend himself, but this is what took place.
I mean, we don't know what the details of the story is, but it's really sad that we still have a rape scourge, a sexual abuse scourge that we're dealing with. South Africa in particular. I was reading a report that said that in the first 3 months of 2022, South Africa had recorded over 10,000 sexual and gender-based violence cases. So it's just really unfortunate that this is a conversation. We need to highlight more the importance of people understanding consent, and we also need to punish people who wrongfully accuse others. I don't know what the situation is, and I can't say that I'm not the court. I'm hoping that the court finds out what the actual situation is, even though rape is very difficult to prove a lot of the time. That's one of the hardest parts about the whole rape conversation. It
is. So there you have it. That's that story right there. Let's take a look at some other stories that we also do have on the front page there at the top. It's what happened yesterday that proved to be unbelievable up until now. We'll talk about it later on in the course of this the show. Saudi show they show helpless Argentina no mercy. I love that headlines. They show helpless Argentina.
We're going to see the most creative headlines this period during the World Cup.
It was surprising yesterday. And I'll take one more story. The front page there talks about Malaika Malatsi, while he was released long overdue, and he believed in equality. Page 27. It's got to do with a murder that took place in 1993. If you've been following this story, I've been able to follow it as well, where a murder took place, cold blood. Yes, in cold blood. And the killer, in this case, was actually landed in prison. And he's been there for a long time. He spent 30 years or thereabout, and he's been released. But families of the deceased are saying, no, he shouldn't have been released. So you can find his picture there on the front page of the Sowetan. But that's what we're going to take for the Sowetan, especially for this first hour.
All right, now let's move to Tanzania and see what's happening on the front page of the Citizen newspaper. The big story there, while we're talking about national carriers in Nigeria, we're also talking about some carriers as well. In Tanzania, grounded Airbus jets back in service soon. The national carrier is expected to receive a spare engine before the end of the month, which will make it possible for one of the 3 grounded Airbus A220-300 passenger planes to be back in service. Now, there are, of course, about 250 Airbus jetliners globally, with the majority said to have been grounded due to an engine fault. So if they're going to be getting spare engines, this is looking more like good news. But if you want to find out more details, the story is on page 2. Still on the front page, 24 accused of murdering police officers set free. Okay. Anyway, the details of that's on page 2 as well. Why Bashiru is in hot water. Commentators say the criticism being directed at former CCM Secretary General is self-inflicted, given that he was in charge at a time when dissent, both within and outside the party, was ruthlessly suppressed. And at the top of the paper, we have new EABC chair outlines COVID recovery plans. International relations, US-China defense chiefs hold productive talks on page 16. And final story, Saudi Arabia keeps feet on the ground after crazy win.